So for this last session today, so it's going to be about a fire chat about BobJ versions, about BI 2025. So I will be, exchanging with Patrick Neesmith from Protiviti, and then also with JF Caron from Wiiisdom, who's managing our SC team. So I don't know if you guys can put your cameras on or not. So I do see JF and Patrick. Where's your hat? I mean, come on.
So actually, funny enough, I do have a Wiiisdom hat. It's just at home today. I didn't get the memo.
I need to speak to Scott about that. So.
That's right. We'll blame Scott.
So for this session, by the way, please feel free. One of the goals of this session is that you have some questions. So, when Patrick talks to customers, Jeff talks to customers, when I speak to customers, is a lot of customers are saying, hey, do you know which version of BobJ we should go to? Do you know if there are some issues? What's the advantage of going to that version, as an example? So these are very common questions that we get from customers all the time. How stable is the version? So if you have some questions, or if you want to share something about, number one, which version of BobJ you're on, please do it in the chat. If you want to share some questions about some of the issues, or if you want to get feedback from other people, please, use the chat to be putting some comments on the BobJ version. So that will be highly appreciated. By the way, what was very interesting when we were chatting with Gregory, so until this comes, so it was quite interesting, Patrick, Jeff, where Gregory was mentioning, okay, I think initially BI 2025 was supposed to be end of, I think, in Q4, in fact. In fact, the version was supposed to be called BI 2024, and the reality is coming out of 2024, so it made a lot more sense, I guess, to call it BI 2025.
Right.
And then, so it's going to be happening a little bit later, and I was actually quite relieved to see that I think SAP is putting a little bit more time into it to make it more stable.
Yeah.
So I thought that was actually quite good feedback.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things you can always count on with BusinessObjects, is that the release date's always going to push, and you probably shouldn't go with that initial release. So, to your point about, what version should people be on, right now we're, obviously 4.2 is coming to the end of support here in December. We're certainly advising our clients to go on and go to 4.3 now, so that they do remain on support. And I was glad, to see that revised roadmap showing that mainstream maintenance for 4.3 is now going to be through 2026, with security fixes through 27. Because that's really one of the things that our clients tend to be most concerned about is, hey, when I go to a version 1, how long is it going to be supported? And they're most concerned about security issues. If a security issue comes up, is that going to be fixed? So I think that's great that SAP is adding that additional year of security patches to the support. So I think that's going to hopefully give people some confidence that, if they do, upgrade now to 4.3, they don't necessarily have to do anything for a couple of more years.
Yeah, it's funny. I was visiting a customer in Canada, a financial institution, and we were chatting about the roadmap, and they had that question where actually I at the time I did not know that there would be no P1 on. I had not recognized that.
Right.
And then they had heard that, so I think that's a big deal. That they will be adding another years to cover CVEs of 7 and more.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that it is a big deal, Patrick. I see one question from Rupa. We are on BI 4.3 SP2, so that's good to be in 4.3, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
To better plan for budgeting purposes, I would like to know how long 4.3 is supported, end of 2026. Does that mean there wouldn't be any SP patches available? If so, what are required to upgrade our OS, but existing BOSP or patch does not support that OS version? So I think Gregory earlier, so they've actually announced, SAP has announced that it would be, BOBJ would be supported until end of 2026 for the current 4.3 version. So I think that is actually quite good.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say though that it is good to stay up on the service packs. You don't necessarily have to go to the latest service pack as soon as it's released. But if you are planning to stay on 4.3 until the end of 26 or even the end of 27, I think you do want to make sure you're staying on top of those service packs and patches and things like that.
Yeah,
I would say,
agree with it.
yeah, go ahead. Yep, go ahead,
No,
Jeff.
just wanted to reinforce what Patrick said. I mean, not jumping on the latest service pack as soon as it comes out. We deal, with a lot of business object customers at different levels, and we heard a few horror stories because there were issues in this or that particular service pack or fix pack, and yeah. Well, good news is we were able to advise other customers not to rush.
Yeah, and then to
Yeah,
advise.
exactly. And that's where I think it's good to work with a partner, whether it's us or another partner. Yeah, I mean, we've got over 50 clients that we currently support on business objects. So, if there's an issue with a patch or a service pack, we're going to know about it pretty quickly, and we can advise clients on when is the appropriate time to go to that next patch.
Yeah, and I know we exchanged with Patrick on these. Like, I think we've probably also got like something like 500 customers today, and that we keep like track. If somebody tells us, hey, there's an issue, we exchange, and of course we want to make sure that that customers know. Same than Patrick there is we want to make sure people are successful. So if there's something that we know, it's always a good thing not to be it's always a good thing, not to be going to these versions if we know that there are some issues.
Right.
And it just thinks, for me, if I see Rupa's comment right now is Rupa is in 4.3 SP2. What do you think, Patrick, Jeff, about 4.3 SP4, the latest patches? What do you guys hear from customers, in fact? How good are they?
I am not aware of any major issues with SP4. I believe we've got several clients on that. It's probably a better question for one of my technical leads that does the implementations, but I'm not aware of any challenges there.
And Jeff, what do you hear? Because I hear good thing on the latest patch.
Yeah, I confirm. I mean, there are way fewer problems than there were in SP3, for example. So no, I don't hear any bad things. We use it internally for our demo systems, and it's pretty stable.
And actually, in fact, 4.3 SP2, there were quite a few challenges. So it depends which service pack Rupa you're on. But historically, Jeff, Patrick, I typically have seen that people, whenever BobJ is going to release a new version, so in this case, BI 2025, typically the latest releases are typically the most stable releases.
Right.
And I'm not saying that they're bulletproof, but I would say definitely there are a lot of they're a lot more stable, generally speaking.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's what we've seen.
Great.
We see a comment from Alex. So Alex is saying, hey, I found typically he waits until patch 4, patch 6 of service pack and is out to work through all the bugs in the service pack. So I think that is actually to me a fair statement. What do you guys think, Patrick, JF?
Yeah, I mean, on patches, that's typically how we advise clients is that I think you go to the service pack and then you only apply patches if it addresses a specific issue that you're having.
Yeah,
And
I concur. I mean, patches are just for that. I mean, for patching a given issue, but it's not an upgrade path.
and then we have another question. Should we wait like from between 4.3 SP2? Are they better off to wait in 4.3 SP2 and go directly to BI 2025, or should they be upgrading to SP4 4.3 SP4? What's your opinion on that?
I don't know. I mean, at this point, we're so close to 25. Unless there's something in the latest service pack that they need, it may make sense to wait for 25, let it be out for a few minutes and see if they want to go to that rather than putting that time and money into an upgrade now. I mean, granted, they are on a supported version now, and I think that's the key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would perhaps mitigate that. I mean, as we all know, we don't want to rush to the very first release of 2025. So we're already in March now, so that's roughly 6 months out before anybody would risk that in production. So if you're looking at features in SP4, maybe it's worth doing the upgrade.
I think it has to do with,
but I'm more, not as categorical as you are.
Yeah, I think it just has to do with when you want to go to 25. If you really think you're going to wait and maybe not go to 25 until 2026, yeah, it probably makes sense to go ahead and get to SP4 on 4.3.
Right.
And to me, it also depends a lot, how happy they are. But there are a lot of things because I think they were in SP2. So I think with SP3, you've got a lot more capabilities, and when it comes to data prep, for example. So I think that is one thing. And I don't know which version of SP2 it's on, but with OData, to be fair, we see a lot of customers that are, leveraging BobJ and then Power BI. And funny enough, we've seen over the years people saying, I'm going to go away from BobJ. We're going to do all the reporting in Power BI. And the reality is, they're just two different solutions, and it just doesn't work that well. And very often when I visit customers, in particular when you visit like HR, business unit, departments or finance departments, is they trust whatever's coming out of the semantic layer of BobJ. And it's there are a lot more governance challenges when it comes to Power BI, for example, on that. And what we see as well is, in terms of performance, if you're using the reporting part in Power BI, I can't remember the name anymore now, but paginated reports, it's not as high performance in BobJ when it comes to scheduling. There's a lot more limitations on that, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's what we hear. But here, the good thing with OData and going up is you can actually use dashboards from Power BI, and then on the other side, you can actually continue to leverage BobJ, where that whatever comes out of it is really is going to be accurate. And if you guys need, just put a comment. I think Michael earlier was wanting to see. We did a video about how you can connect BobJ to Power BI with the OData, so we'd be more than happy to share that with you, or to make a demo as well. There is a comment from Martina. Hey folks, we are already on SP4 patch 4. Okay, we have no issues. Just the upgrade was challenging. We had some issues with ports on service servers. Fast to fix, however, not easy to find the problem. So I don't know if you know anything about that, Jeff, or is anybody else experiencing the same thing or on newer patches?
Yeah, personally, I didn't hear anything like that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any specific issues, but I will say, I mean, it's always good to involve your infrastructure team up front and let them know when you're doing upgrades. Because I have run into that with a number of clients where, we're doing an upgrade and something like that does need to be done, and then you have to make a request, and then it's a week or so. So I would say make sure your network or infrastructure team is involved and aware of the upgrades, so they have people available.
Yeah, and also one thing is, I think with all more and more since Log4j, in fact, we've seen, I mean, somebody was mentioning that he's still supporting like, I think, which I need to look because I had to look at twice that was Kevin, I think was mentioning that, but he is still supporting, or one of his customers still has got XR2. Look, it's been, I think it's I haven't heard that for ages.
Yeah, call me. I'll help you upgrade.
So that's quite interesting. But I mean, realistically, I think Patrick, when you talk to customers, are they on 4.2? Are they on 4.3? Which versions are they on today?
I'd say it's a mix of those two. I mean, certainly over the past year, we've upgraded a lot of clients from 4.2 to 4.3. We have several that are, for budgetary reasons, are waiting till after the first of the year to go to 4.3. But I would say pretty much all of them are on 4.2 or 4.3 at this point.
Hey, we see another question here. Can you talk about PC in SAP SOW come 2027? Any updates to SAP BusinessObjects will be done for those on the cloud and not for those on premise? What does that mean to us who are on prem? So do you want to answer some of that, Patrick, JF?
Was that about PCE?
Some of the question is PC. I think what she wants to know is what you have on PC, is it different than what customers have got on prem? Is it the same version?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as far as I know, it's still the same version as what you would run on premise or on your own hyperscaler. It's just the main thing with PCE is it's managed by SAP, and the licensing is different because it's a cloud subscription that you pay, so basically it's a monthly fee rather than what you're used to with on-premise, where it's a perpetual license where you pay a large upfront amount and then you pay annual maintenance.
And yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just acquiescing.
And the thing is also on PC is you need to be very cautious about your storage because this is not cheap. So please be very careful on that. And I mean, like today, so Patrick, there is no difference in terms of versions anyway between PC and what they have on prem. So
right, it's the same product. It's just more of a licensing and who manages it. The other thing to keep in mind with PCE is it's only going to work for certain clients because there are minimum numbers of users. So really, at list price, the annual cost is like $500,000. So that doesn't really work for most clients. So the majority of our clients that want to go to the cloud are keeping their on-premise, or perpetual licenses, and then we're just building that infrastructure on AWS or Azure or one of those, rather than in their own data center.
In fact, as well, customers that say, because a lot of customers say, hey, we've got a cloud strategy. And I think you guys do managed services for BobJ deployments. So you've got BobJ deployments that you've moved to the cloud, to Azure, AWS, and you manage these. Is that correct, Patrick?
Yep.
So that can be, to me, that also can be an option. And I think today, most customers, I think a very vast majority of our customers are
Yeah.
are on-prem or are using BobJ on a hyperscaler such as AWS or GCP or Azure. So
yeah, yeah. I would say most of our clients are either already, on one of the hyperscalers, or when we upgraded them in this past year, that was part of the upgrade, was to move them to AWS or Azure.
And so as well, in terms of BI 2025, what do people need to do? Are there some things that are specific for BI 2025 when they go there? How about the universe, and what do you guys like, Patrick, JF? What should
the big topic du jour, of course, is on the support of universe and also certain applications that are deprecated. Universes, I think the big thing is the multi-source universes, and of course the lack of support for UNVs. Now, what we see in the field is that there's still UNVs out there, but it tends to go down now. A lot of our clients have started converting, and we helped quite a few of them actually do that. They're still out there. Multi-source seems to be less used, but it's more complicated if you have true multi-source universes. But those are the things you have to pay attention to. I don't think it's a major problem for most customers, but yeah, I don't know what you see in the field, Patrick.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. I mean, we've been advising our clients for several years now to start moving their UNVs to UNXs. Obviously, we've used Wiiisdom's tool in a number of cases for that. We still see a lot of people, though, who have not done that. I don't know, maybe they're thinking they'll wait longer to go to BI 25 and stay on 4.3. And I think that's fine. I mean, like we said, 4.3 now is supported through 26 or 27. So they do have a little more time, but for those that are staying on BobJ, and I don't see any reason why you wouldn't stay on BobJ. Yeah, there is at some point they've got to move those UNVs to UNXs.
Yeah, and Desky is no longer supported.
Yeah, I think we got our last major client converted off of Desky about 4 years ago. So that was quite an undertaking.
And there's a question here: is SAP on PC, how does it work when it comes to updates versus on premise? So do you recall, Patrick, how many versions,
Well, it's not an automatic, you don't automatically get the update. I mean, it still has to be coordinated with SAP. But my understanding is they're responsible for doing the updates, but then, you still have to do the testing and things like that as you normally would.
And I think you can only do a certain amount of updates as well. So that I think there's something.
I'm sure there's a limitation. I don't know off the top of my head what it is, but yeah. And I mean, we do that for clients that we do manage services for. We typically include a major upgrade, like a service pack, every year, and then as needed patches.
I see an interesting statement. Multi-source does not work with patch 4 anymore. Surprised about that. Was a surprise for us after the upgrade. Next problem we have is that we have had to upgrade Crystal Report 2020, as the older version does not support UNX. We need to upgrade UNV to UNX, but it was not compatible for Crystal. So actually that's interesting. I hadn't heard anything about multi-source not working for patch 4. If anybody else has got the same concern, let us know, but I've not heard that.
It should not be the case. I mean, it's still officially supported, so maybe a fluke.
And I'm just curious on that question, Martina, is like, are your multi-source, these are, I'm assuming, also pointing with Webbies, and you have a multi-source single connection or multi-source multi-connections? And Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about the differences between both and what the challenges are there?
Yes, so a multi-source universe does not necessarily have multiple sources. It's just a different format and the way they're processed. So when you create a UNX, you decide whether it's single source or multi-source. But the option to be multi-source is just, you know, the option to do that. So we find that some customers, some developers have opted to check the multi-source option, even if, you know, they didn't immediately think of having more than one source, just in case. It turns out that was a mistake. First of all, the processing is more intensive, but also now we're facing the fact that they will no longer be supported. However, for that, we have a solution. We have a way to convert them back to regular single source UNXs. If you actually have multiple sources in your multi-source universe, then it's a lot more involved. There's some manual work, a lot of manual work that's involved.
So, you know, they're using multi-connections.
Okay, yeah. So that's a different thing altogether.
And to be fair, these are very complex projects to be handling with. So
Yeah.
if you've got some specific questions, maybe we can talk on the side. But these are these are not simple.
Yeah, I'd be happy to bring in one of my technical resources to help with that type of conversation.
Martina, you know, feel free if you're interested to exchange with Patrick into it. In fact, before we go, I'll go on LinkedIn to pull out your LinkedIn. So hold on, Patrick Neesmith. Okay, here we go. While I do that, Patrick, for how many years have you been with Protiviti?
So came to Protiviti in 2015, but that was through an acquisition of a company here in Atlanta called Decision First Technology. So I've actually been doing business objects work since late 2023. I mean, 2003, sorry, 2003. So what, 21 years?
Yeah. And so I just put Patrick's LinkedIn on it, and Martina as well is mentioning for us what have been important to know in advance from SAP. I understand your frustration, to be frank, as we've been, you know, Jeff and I, as well as Patrick, you know, we've been doing webinars about BI 2025. And I think pretty much every time we've mentioned about the multi-source and particularly multi-connection, you know, universe issues in UNX. So yeah, I'm sorry that you guys are finding this out late, but there are solutions, but it's not, these are not that simple. And it just depends as well how many tables you have, because it can be, you know, if it's small, sometimes you might be better off to rebuild it. Now we have customers with a couple hundred tables, and we can actually help with that, but it can be fairly complex. So, and make sure you test also when you finish all these work, because there will be issues. You know, the more complex your universe are, the more chances are to have errors, because these are extremely error-prone type of work. So, any last comment, JF, Patrick, before we go?
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd say is, you know, I think there's been a lot of confusion in the market about the future of business objects. I get questions all the time from clients about, you know, is SAP going to continue to support it? I think we saw that earlier today. They are going to continue to support it. They do have several new releases planned. They have support planned well into the 2030s. So I think people can be confident that yes, it is going to continue to be supported, and so there is no reason to undertake some massive project to move off of business objects and onto something else. It's still the best tool out there for paginated reports and scheduling and bursting and integrating with your own applications, things like that. So.
Patrick, we've seen, as I was saying earlier, we have customers saying, hey, we want to go, etc. We've actually seen people coming back, and then we've seen for the past year people reinvesting.
Yeah.
And what's very interesting is we've seen a lot of fight for some time between Tableau, Power BI, and BobJ. And at the time there were some other reporting solutions that were in. But pretty much what's interesting nowadays is BobJ is really the main reporting solution that is left that people are using. And today, like again, we had a lot of customers going towards Power BI on that, and they just all came back saying it doesn't do the same things in terms of reporting. Scheduling are very limited. It doesn't take the load the same way. It just doesn't do it the same. So it's something we support also Power BI. So, I would say we're pretty legit on that. And they're just different solutions. It's great for certain things and not as good for other things. It's just, you're talking about two different things there. So, and you're right about the versions where, if you think about, Patrick, when 4.2 was out, SAP didn't release for a long time any new versions. They didn't communicate on any new version.
Yeah, and I think that was the key, was the communication. So there was a lot of uncertainty about what the future was. Yep.
Yeah, and now look, you see there's two versions in advance, and you can actually look at the roadmap. It's still going on. So I think it's all good. If you think about Evan, who was here earlier, who works in JF's team, he's been doing that for 28 years and he's retiring on it. And I had people, telling Bruno, I've been doing that for 10, 15, 20 years. Will I retire in BobJ? Probably a couple of years ago, I would have probably said no, because you were not seeing SAP investing, but now SAP is investing and there's no comparable solution. So I think, it's going to stay there for many, many more years. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
JF, any comments before we go?
Nope, not really. I think this was very educative. I loved all the questions from the audience. That was interesting.
Okie doke. Well, folks, that's all. Thank you for joining, and we hope you had a good time. Be good and stay cool, and we will be sharing the recording of the event of today to you, as well as the presentation. So again, thank you all for joining. Thank you very much, Patrick, as always.
Thanks, Bruno. Really appreciate you including me. This was fun.
And JF, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruno.
I don't say it enough, so thanks a lot, guys. Take care and have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, guys.